Good morning, guys. It's Marissa here from Little House Living. I've had a lot of requests for this, so today I wanted to show you a glimpse of what our family eats in a day. Before you watch this, I just want to preface with the fact that this is not like a diet that I'm endorsing or anything like that. This is just what our family ate this day. Each day is very different in our house. Right now we are in the middle of a pantry challenge, so we are eating things that we already have in our pantry or in our cold storage or in our freezer, and try not to go to the grocery store for the next couple of months, just to kind of eat down some of the things that aren't getting eaten. So for breakfast today, I am making a potato sheet pan, and this is a really basic meal that my family absolutely loves. It's great for really cold days. On the day that I am making this video, it was -7 when I woke up in the morning, and that was not with the wind chill. So very cold. So I'm starting this breakfast by just dicing up some potatoes, and this was about 3 pounds of potatoes, which was perfect for our family of 5. I used Yukon Gold potatoes because that's just what I happen to have in my cold storage, but you can use any that you have. I coated those potatoes that I had cubed with some olive oil, with some salt, and with some pepper, and then I am just going to mix it together so that the potatoes are coated evenly with the salt and pepper and the olive oil. If you don't coat the potatoes with the olive oil, they won't cook evenly, so it's a good idea to do this. And you can use a spoon if you don't want to use your hands, but this is what worked for me. I hate dirtying extra dishes. So then I just put them on a roasting pan and put them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. And once they were getting soft, I had some leftover peppers and onions that I had cooked the night before and we had put over tacos. So I'm just gonna spread those over the top and kind of mix them in to give the potatoes just a little bit extra flavor versus being just plain potatoes. So I'm just gonna mix those in and incorporate it so the flavor goes throughout. And then I'm gonna take a couple eggs, and I ended up using 6 on this one single sheet pan, and I just crack those right over the top of the potatoes, just like that. And then I'm gonna put it back in the oven and let it cook until those eggs are cooked through. So once they're cooked through, then you've got a whole meal right there in the sheet pan, and it's just super easy. So next I am going to make some chicken nuggets for lunch. I have this recipe over on the blog, so I'll make sure that I link it for you below. But I used to make this recipe in a food processor, and I don't have a food processor anymore, so I've just been mixing it up by hand. But I decided to try my blender here to see if it would do anything, and not really so much luck. So I kind of added the first couple ingredients, which was the egg and the mayonnaise and the chicken and the onion that's in the blender, and as you can see, it just doesn't work very well. So I ended up adding a little bit more egg and some more mayonnaise. My chicken was also super dry, so that was not helping me get it mixed up at all. But this recipe is really super easy, and even if your kids don't like chicken nuggets, this actually tastes like chicken because that's what it's made out of. So they might like this recipe. So be sure and check it out over on the blog. The other thing that I do with this recipe is I make them into bigger patties, not just the little chicken nuggets, and we can use those for like a chicken patty sandwich, or just top with some barbecue sauce and have with the rest of our meal if you don't want any bread to use it as a sandwich. But Yes, this is multiple attempts at trying to make it work in my blender, and my blender is excellent. It just does not work when stuff is super dry like this. I also wanted to point out in the background, you can see my little arrow garden. It's growing some herbs for us. Since we're in the middle of a pantry challenge, it's really nice to have fresh herbs to make the meals feel a little bit fresher and just give it a little bit more flavor and a little bit more color. I started growing those herbs maybe about 3 weeks ago to 4 weeks ago, and we've already been able to harvest quite a bit of basil, and the parsley is coming along really well. So that's been really nice to have throughout the winter. And my husband will tell you, I actually call it my happy light, because I like to set the timer on the arrow garden so that it is on in the morning when I get up at 5, and then it turns off when I go to bed. So it's kind of my little extra brightness to my kitchen during the day. So I'm just finishing up these chicken nuggets, and I added a little bit of salt just to give it some flavor. You can add in some garlic or some onion powder if you want to give it an extra boost. It does have onions in it, so you may not want to add onion powder, but either way, anything to give it a little bit extra flavor boost. And then you will notice that if you look at the recipe on my website, it calls for cheese, which is an excellent addition to these chicken nuggets. But my kids have a dairy allergy, so I actually haven't made it with cheese for quite some time, and it works just fine without it. So I wanted to make this recipe for lunch today because I had these breadcrumbs sitting in the pantry and they really needed to be used up. So I just poured those on a plate, and now I'm forming the chicken nuggets and just coating those in the breadcrumbs and then putting them on my baking pan. And you just do this until all of your chicken has been used up. And they don't have to be any kind of perfect shape. My kids think it's funny when they're kind of goofy shapes. Okay, here's today's lunch. These are the kids' plates. We've got our homemade chicken nuggets, some grapes, and some beans that I canned this year, and then some homemade ketchup. I made 50 jars of homemade ketchup, so we'd have at least one per week when I canned them up this year, and it's been working out great so far. So this is lunch today. Okay, since I recorded this on New Year's Day, we thought we'd make some cookies for something special. We don't make cookies all of the time, but it seemed like a fun time to do it, and I had bought some yogurt with which to make my sugar cookies over the holidays, and it didn't get done. So I decided that I was going to make sugar cookies for the kids this afternoon. Now this is my Nutrimill Artiste, and it's a new mixer to me. I haven't had a mixer in a really long time since I had my Bosch, but I decided that it would be really helpful for me in the kitchen to have a mixer again. So I compared a bunch of different kinds online, and overall I had really liked the Bosch. I had purchased a KitchenAid before I bought the Bosch and ended up keeping it like 3 days before I returned it because it overheated. And I wasn't even trying to mix up very much in it. So I had the Bosch for several years. And then, like I said, it's been at least probably 5 years since I've had a mixer. But I decided to invest in this Nutrimill mixer because I really liked the size, and I liked the suction cups on the bottom because I had a pretty small area that I needed it to fit in. The mixing shelf that you can see me in front of is only about 12 inches wide. So I wanted something that would fit there and be really functional. And so far, I really love this thing. I probably use it at least every other day, if not every day. Just depending on what we're making and if I'm home, but it definitely does a great job. And we cook just gluten-free in our house because of some pretty severe allergies on my part. So this thing has done really good with all my gluten-free flour blends, and I think I've made bread in it, I've made cookies in it, I've made a lot of quick breads in it. It's just been great so far. So I can link to that down below too. I purchased it from Pleasant Hill Grain. They definitely had the best price on it, and they just have overall great customer service. So here I'm just making my cookies, and yeah, that dough looks awesome. My kids loved my sugar cookie recipe because I like to make them really big and really soft. So I'll link to that recipe down below too. So once you've got the dough done, you just pat it out, and I decided to be super basic today and just do 2 shapes of cookies, much to the disappointment of my kids. But I like the like heart-shaped cookie cutters because the cookies seem to come out the best. So this is a really great dough. It works great for rolling out cookies. I mean, you could make drop cookies if you wanted with it. And then I like to roll it to pretty close to a 1/2 inch thickness and bake these nice, really thick cookies, and then just slightly underbake them so they're still really nice and soft. The kids absolutely love them and go crazy over them. So that was what I was doing today. It was a great treat for the kids. They were so happy that I made these. Here's the baked cookies. We usually do not frost them. We like to just eat them plain, but they also taste good with frosting if you happen to have any on hand. So for supper tonight, I am making a chicken stir fry. I've decided tonight that I am going to deep fry the chicken, which is something we really love to do when we want a little bit more flavor in our stir fry. I didn't happen to have a lot of fresh veggies on hand to make this. I just had broccoli. So the deep fried chicken will really give it an extra layer and a lot of extra flavor. So the sauce that I'm making for this is a sweet and sour sauce, and it's super simple. It is just apricot preserves, apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of soy sauce. And I make that soy sauce homemade, but I don't have that recipe on the blog, but I can write it out below so you guys can make it. But it's super easy. I use my homemade preserves. I do end up adding a little bit of maple syrup to it since I don't add sugar in my preserves, but if you have sugar in your preserves, you probably won't need that. So here I am getting the rice adjusted on the stove that's in the blue pan, and then I'm mixing up the chicken. All I did was cut up pieces of chicken thighs and coat them in arrowroot powder, and then I poured a little bit of that sweet and sour sauce over to kind of make a slurry that coats the chicken. And that is going to be my coating to deep fry the chicken. So you can see some of my deep fried chicken. It looks a little dark, but that's just because the sweet and sour sauce is dark. I went really easy with the broccoli this time. I had some that were in these steamable microwave bags. So I had already steamed that and put it in. And then we have some delicious fried chicken. And the rice came together really well. I like to cook the rice in my Dutch oven because it seems like it cooks it really nicely. So I chose not to thicken up the sauce this time. Sometimes I add a little bit of extra arrowroot into whatever stir fry sauce I'm making, but today I thought it was thick enough with the preserves. So I'm just going to dish up our bowls here for supper. Sometimes we put everything out on the table, but sometimes when we're ready for supper, it's just easier to dish up the bowls and put them on the table and have it ready for everyone. So we do a nice serving of rice and then a big serving of broccoli on the top. And then we're gonna top that with chicken and some of the sauce. And that is what we're having for our supper tonight, and what we ate in a day during a pantry challenge. Like I said, we are a family of 5. Right now we are trying to eat just from the pantry and from the freezer and from what we have in cold storage. So this is what we ate today. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments section, and be sure and subscribe and turn on notifications so that you can know the next time that I post another video.